Hey, thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on which location you are on. Now, let's start with the webinar on demystifying AI ops. In today's industry, there is AI ops is very commonly used. What is this AI ops? What does ServiceNow to do with the AI ops? What are ServiceNow recent changes? What is happening with Orlando version, how we are actually improving on the AIOps piece. Let's speak about it. I structured this whole conversation like kind of a tech talk with about 20 minutes of 18 to 20 minutes of the presentation. And then if there is any question, we can take 5-10 minutes after that, right? I intend to close this in the next 30 minutes or so. Now, let me not take too much time. Now, let me get to the crux of the story, right? What is AIOps? Where is it today? This is one area which has been changing just in the past 1 year, right? A substantial change. What is it addressing? There are four major things. Today, by the way, as I said, I started my career 2 decades back, close to 20 years back, right? So it has always been the case whenever there is a automated alert, there has always been a larger noise. It was always a pain to find out where exactly the problem is. When there is a disk failure throughout this engagement, I'll actually stick to one use case because it's only 20 minutes, and the use case is there is a disk failure on a Windows server, and because of that there are series of issues like web server went down, Oracle went down, the CPU because of the paging request. Let's assume this is actually C drive that is close to 100%, right? So all these issues, there will be, for that one specific incident, there will be multiple tickets created, and how you have to identify that one, make it as a save one. Currently it is a manual process. It has been a manual process for the past 18 years, right? That's number one. Lot of noise, lack of context. I mean, which application, why it is failing, what is the context of that application? Lack of agility. Every single day there are a lot of changes in both on the business side, on the application side, on the infrastructure side. Is there an agility? Now with all that pandemic, you all know, right, there's a decentralization of operations. With these things, AI ops becomes much more important. There are few observations which we saw. Actually, if you see, this is from Digital Enterprise Journal. They have done a study of about 1100 organizations. Three-fourth of them, more than three-fourth of them, actually using AIOps. There are a few very interesting observations they found. Number one, 3 times increase in the AIOps budget, right? A CIO now, right, most 3 times increase what it was in late of 2018, early 2019 to early 2020. They have increased the budget by 3 times, or the number of people adopted AIOps has increased by threefold. Number one. Number two, the people who thought that, right, hey, AIOps is an unproven technology, right? I remember back in 2015, 2016, even I thought cloud is an unproven technology, right? It 16, 17 completely changed the perspective. The same case here. In 2018 and even early 2019, people thought that AIOps is an unproven technology. Even today, that's my third point. Even today, people think that it is AIOps is a confusing story. It's not very easy. That is the reason why we said, like, okay, let's demystify this. That's the agenda of this. Now I come to that agenda. Let me actually slightly increase the speed, right, velocity of this presentation, right? So with these 3 points set, right, why this is important, why it is important to understand. Let's look at few more data points as well. The people who have deployed AI ops think that they have their ability to identify actionable insight has increased by about 75%, 73%. And two-thirds of the people think that not just the actionable insight from availability perspective, even from performance perspective, it is actually increasing, right? Two-thirds of the people are thinking that. That's a major observation. And all this is from published articles, right? I of course collected from Gartner, and majority of it is coming from Digital Enterprise Journal. Now, yeah, I was actually looking at a few days back on the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, right? He was in his Davos speech. The pace of change has never been this fast. We are changing, especially though he said this like in Davos 2018. It's much more applicable today in this pandemic. We are changing faster than ever before. And surprise, right? It's interesting to see that, or somebody is telling, this is the slowest in the future, right? We are going to move much faster than how we are moving today. If that is the case, and I could actually see these numbers, AIOps is important, and it is an important ingredient. With that said, there are what is AIOps, right? Back in 20, right, the 2002 2003 timeframe when I started my career, right, there was a three-tier architecture. It was like web, app, and DB, right? Once you understand this, the whole e-commerce was easier, right? The whole system was easier. How the three come. So essentially, what is AIOps? It has only 5 clean, well-defined ingredients. Collect the data, observe the pattern, which is like event correlation and all that. What kind of pattern the data has? Let's, to my earlier example, let's take, right, the data is, the file system is full, right? Observe the pattern in that. If that is one alert, what are the different alerts coming? Once you have observed the pattern, create some inference out of it and show to the people, right? Show to the admins, right? Then they will be able to, based on your inference, they'll be able to take a corrective action. Once these three are done, give them a platform for them to collaborate and resolve faster. Why is that important? I told you before, one of the pain point is things are getting decentralized. It is essential to have a collaboration platform. Once this is the fourth. If all these things are done, the chances of resolving or bringing back the services substantially increases. Once these four are done, the fifth is, if this issue happens, what can I do to automate this remediation? If the first four are properly done, and if I can pave the way for the fifth, then the purpose of AIOps is done, right? If these are the 5 main ingredients of AIOps, with that, who are the players, right? Actually, I try to look at all of them, right? But essentially, there are only few players which are pretty strong, right? ServiceNow, it acquired Loom Systems. This is a large player, right? Together today, Loom Systems is acquired by ServiceNow. So these are the two. And of course, Science Logic, one of the large technology company here in Bay Area, is using it. Many of them, this Xenos, actually, it has an open source component also. That is another component. Datadog, Splunk, many of the financial services companies, Splunk started in a different way, right? Many of Splunk's ITSI module has this feature. Mooksoft is a late entrant. It's actually started by the founder of the Netcool from IBM, right? It's another very interesting product which does a great job here. But these are the people who actually are able to build these 5 things in their own style. Now, with that said, this webinar is not about all of these things. I'm going to concentrate on ServiceNow and LoomSoft alone, right? Or ServiceNow alone. Anyway, LoomSoft is part of Loom Systems is part of ServiceNow, right? So to collect data, anyway, you need to have the incident management system in place. So there is a need to have a ITSM system. So it makes more sense. And ServiceNow is your custodian of ITSM, right? So collecting data is much more easier. You don't have to replicate if you go to something else, if you're already having ServiceNow, number one. Number two, observe the pattern and show the inference. What does that mean? You need to have an ML in place, machine learning in place, artificial intelligence in place. What is artificial intelligence? It is about learning the past and predicting the future. Learning the right past, right? Reading the right material of the past so that you'll be able to correctly identify the future. Who can do it? The person who has access to the past can do it. Who has a complete access? ITSM has a complete access. What is ITSM? ServiceNow. Again, is that not possible to replicate and give it to somebody else and they can learn it? Absolutely yes. The overhead, in my view, is higher. So, so in that way, I'm actually going to concentrate more on the ServiceNow part of the event management. Now, okay, so if that is what it is, what is that event management, right? Number one, as I said before, I clearly defined 5 layers. Layer one is collect the data, observe, create inference, collaborate, automate. These are the 5 layers. With those 5 layers, how am I collecting this data? This is about, it doesn't matter where the source is coming from, where your ESM, enterprise service monitoring, right? Where your monitoring tools are. It can be your attendance system, it can be your Nagios, it can be SolarWinds, whichever, or it can be an aggregator like Splunk. Wherever the source data is, ServiceNow's strength is it simplifies the whole thing. It's all about integration is all about, hey guys, here is a table, you go and write there. It's that simple. And most of these integrations are API driven, REST or SOAP driven. All these are already standardized. Now, right, as long as you have written, the collection is much more standardized, simpler. So that's in the event table. I'm using a little bit of ServiceNow's terminology. Then once the event converts into an alert, this is when I spoke about observation, right? What do I observe? If you look at it, I actually indexed everything on the left. I'm trying to index in a different way, right? Like if there are similar tickets, I'll be able to show a quick demo. You'll be able to realize this better, right? If this is where the alerts are created, in events are created into alerts. 100,000 events in an hour or in 6 hours gets converted into few hundred or few thousand alerts, event to alert, based on automated grouping model, event grouping model. That is the ML piece of it. And that is actually every minute it can do. And that's the reason why if your custodian of ITSM is ServiceNow, it is better to use event management of ServiceNow, or the AIOps of ServiceNow. So with that, then once that is done, you bring in your intelligence of how to handle that issue. For example, in the issue I'm speaking about, C drive hitting 100%, I may have a PowerShell script to go and clean up the temp file, the temp folder of the C drive, right? Or any of those I can orchestrate, create an incident and orchestrate, and create a workflow to get that work done. So that is how ServiceNow event management flow happens. I have not spoken about how the collaboration platform is working, but the rest of it is how on a very highly simplified manner, right? Let me speak a minute on what is this AIML which I'm speaking about, which is this layer, automated grouping. That is the crux. That's actually one of the important component, right? It identifies the event and makes sure all that noise is avoided. When I actually said, right, a large portion, more than 90% of the noise in many cases, right? How is that avoided? So the way they do it is they look at 3 important metrics, right? CI, metrics identifier, right? What kind of assert that information is coming from? In my case, there is a Windows server which C drive is more than 85%. The name of that Windows server, host name. Metric identifier. What are the metric identifier? First, it said C drive is 85% plus. Then it says my CPU is high. Then it said my Apache server on that or IAS server on that is not working. And then it said the application is not responding properly. All this is tracked to one single underlying problem. So that's the metric. All these are different matrices. And the third important factor is it has to happen within a closer period of time. If it happens, it is all related to one single incident, right? So that's how it actually creates the automated grouping and give you your admin team one ticket rather than having 15-20 tickets. So with that, let me go to the demo. Quick question: how are we doing on time, and how is the is there any question
Yeah,
from
thank you,
anyone?
Venkat. We are doing good on the time. Excellent. You gave an overview about what is the crux about AIOps. That is very important for all the audience here. And with that, keeping in that in mind, what kind of metrics does the operator workspace show using AIOps? And also follow up for that, is there a license complication or a license implication on this, on AIOps piece? Can you clarify that?
Yep, good. So I will address both. In the once I get to the demo, I get the question, right? I'll address both. Now, let me quickly go to the demo, right? So here is my demo instance, right? I have, like, in my instance, I artificially created two major incidents, right? Those two major incidents, if you see, are one is on a Linux environment, the other is Windows environment, which I actually spoke about, which is my file system is 95 or 85 percentage plus, right? So if I open that major incident, right? So there are, uh, yeah, it is affecting one of the servers, and there are alerts, right? uh, if I open that specific alert, right, it is a load disk alert. Disk space is the alert. If I open that specific alert and go down, I can see that there were actually four different alerts came in, right? My Dynatrace said that my application is down. My SolarWinds said C drive is down. My Dynatrace again said one of the processes, right, Apache process was down. And we realized, this is my vCenter, we realized, informed that my CPU utilization is high. These are completely, kind of, when you look at it, it looks like they are unrelated. This is a, maybe you may be able to map these two, 76 and 69, but otherwise you think that they are unrelated. You end up actually having four different tickets. This ticket will go to VMware team, this will go to applications team, and this will go to the disk, the storage team, right? Three different teams will be mapped for it. But in reality, all these are happening. If you look at the timestamp, they were all almost happening around the same time, 9:51 and then 9:52. Within that 1 or 2 minute window, this whole thing happened. So, and the system thinks that the ML, in based on the past knowledge, it identifies that these are related ticket, and because of that, I'm going to create one single incident. You can immediately tell, hey Venkat, that's not the case. Actually, these are two different things. Of course, you can teach the system, but based on the past, it identified all those things as one single ticket. Let me quickly show few of those things, right? Incident management, alert dot list, event dot list. So if you really look at it, where is it coming from? It first actually creates a list of events. There are like hundreds of events, whatever is happening in this case, right? All these events are logged. It is just a collection of data in that, what I explained. Once it is collected, it has to take some meaning out of it. In this case, if you look at it, this is uh, the observation. The observation is in the five places. The observation is there are those that are five. Let me quickly show. Yeah. So though there are four different alerts, it all boils down to one single incident, and that is why it became an automated alert. If there are four ways you could actually do the correlation, right? Which is, so one of that is using the ML or the story. Or you can say, probably my system is a little bit slower. So essentially, four different alerts are aggregated into one. That's the first piece. That's my second layer. I said, number one, there is a collection of data. Number two is I'm able to aggregate this whole thing. Now I have to create an inference to it, which is based on my rule. It actually identified this as a severity major incident, and then it created an incident for it. How is that doing? Because the server is a production server, because it has C drive and there are services associated with it, it identified that. That is my inference. Now, if these three layers are addressed, right? If these three layers are addressed, now I have to enable the user to give him a collaborative platform so that he can work with the rest of the team. As I said before, in the legacy world, the command center is co-located, right? Now, what is that platform which ServiceNow offers so that he will be able to see the impact and he will be able to effectively collaborate? That's where this comes, right? Let me quickly open. Now, on the operator workspace, which is the platform on which most of my command center as well as my technical team actually sits, he would be able to see the complete service mapping of how the systems are. For example, order status, logistics, delivery processing. So these are some of those. So I actually define it based on digital, which is digital, right? Or on a functional definition of it, or on geographical definition of it, right? The systems applications are defined in such a way that what depending on how we want to see. Let me actually pick up on the digital. It's on that order status piece of it, right? Let me open that. Once I open, it actually says here my node, Windows node, is below 15% free on that CPU. Now if I click on it, it actually shows me the relevant metrics on what kind of, right, what kind of incident, what are those different alerts which actually came. For example, here are the different alerts, right? The four secondary alerts we got. Here is how that alerts are getting executed. What I meant is, right, for example, the log file automatically, right, it actually looks at the log file and adds it as part of my right, it is attaching that log file. You'll be able to see the log file even before you are going and looking at the incident, right? So it gives that detail. The second thing it actually does is on the matrices. This is Vinay, right, which you actually spoke about. The when the incident happened, the disk utilization was, you can see it is 15%. But is that the case? How long was it actually lower? You can see that it was most of the time at 50%. There was a sudden decrease to 15% or so, and then it increased. What can be the potential problem? It could be like there is a blue screen dump, or like some, sorry, not the blue screen, application dump. It crashed and then it restarted again. It created, it just went and sat on the C drive. That application dump used most of the space and then it got cleaned up. It could be one of those. It self healed. But this is the issue. You will be able to see the metrics. That's one piece. The second piece is, what are the other insights? Has Is there any incident happen on that specific server? Again, can I do that in the rest of the event management platform? It may be, which I spoke about, right? Some of the competitors, yeah, it may be possible. But because ServiceNow is the custodian for your organization in ITSM, it makes more sense to build it this way. The list of alerts, the list of incidents which happen, the kind of changes in the past. There is an interesting metric. More than 50% of the severity one incident happened because of the changes happen in that specific CI. As long as you have a change management process in place, the the operator has a view of the list of changes, whether it is current change or any related change which happened in the past, the recent past. So that way, the user would be able to see the timeline, how the incident is, this whole information. And he would be able to work on it and resolve that, right? He would be able to actually see, for example, right, on the service map, how the dependency of, let me quickly show that, right? So if you look at it, it is on this Oracle server where the issue was, and it actually has this impact. That whole flow, it would be able to show your ability to find out how that issue happened, and you can actually see that on the incident itself, on the save one incident, the complete work log, what it actually showed, as I told you before, it took the work log of the incident and attached it. So let me go back. The collaboration to resolve is a platform which ServiceNow offers so that the people who are jumping into the call would be able to see how that impact is, right? Let me quickly go. I know it's, yeah. So with that, Again, I'll go back to what the industry practices, digital enterprise journal, what it actually showed. They think that collection of data most organizations are doing. The best performing organizations, the amount of ticket, right, the ticket reduction, the even correlation is only like about 20%. The third area on the inference, identifying that the predictive intelligence piece of it, about 50% of the companies, only the TPO, top performing companies, have a likelihood of assigning the right priority, assigning the ticket to the right people, ring the right bell. So that is show the inference. Collaboration platform. This is about only the top performing companies are able to do that well. I'm top performing according to this company is about 20% of the companies, right, which are on their 1100 assessment they have done. And automate to remediation is like once we have done this core right, AI ops right, their ability to automate substantially increases. So essentially, what it brings in: ESM integration, even correlation, ability to have a well-defined predictive intelligence, operator workspace, and orchestration. Right. So that's the thing. And when I to the one of the questions which you have asked, what is the license implication? This comes at ITSM Pro. Sorry, ITOM Health is a module. It's actually a licensed event management is a licensed product. We can actually do a deep dive, identify what kind of licenses we need. If you could actually reach out to us. Now with that, yeah, you can engage with us. There are few things which we offer, right? You might have seen my earlier webinar on my chatbot. If not, we will share that link. It's again a 20-30 minutes of webinar. We do a free complimentary assessment, which is a well architected review. And then this component of AI ops event management, where we measure the outcome of 90% of false alert, only the false alert, right? False alerts, at least 90% of them are avoided. And our industry, right, is like more than 70% of the automated alerts are false alerts. This frees up a substantial amount of space in addition to the benefits which I actually spoke about. I will take a pause now. Right, that's pretty much what I have. Thank you all. We'll send the presentation and have a great day.